their study went from 1990 through to 2017, and they found that the stats actually haven't changed altogether that much. The percentages and the amount of people have pretty much stayed the exact same. Yeah. And of the 10.7% of people globally that have a mental health issue, 7.5% of that was 7.5% of 10% was anxiety and depression. Yeah, so essentially, whatever, 75% of all the people who have mental health disorders was attributed to anxiety and depression. It's interesting that more than likely in those sort of higher earning income countries, or just higher earning income, groups or individuals or families, because you've got all this much, you can still have this massive anxiety and massive depression that kind of takes over. Certainly not amplified, but it's not that money or power or greatness is kind of removing that away. Yeah, so even the discussion of mental health doesn't have to be limited to someone in a lower income sort of bracket or anything like that. It can affect even quite high income earners or high individuals. And I know that you had quite a period of time in your life where that wasn't the case. Yeah. Did you ever think at that time that maybe I am depressed, or there's an impact about that?
I think I definitely knew I was, but it's weird because it's like when you are depressed, you don't want to do things as well. So it's sort of like there's no motivation, there's no impetus to try and get out of it. So I definitely knew something was wrong. But one, I didn't know how to get out of it, I suppose, and two, there was like no motivation to get out of it as well, which is really weird because you're in like this real bad place, and as a human being, you don't like being in feeling crap and just in general not enjoying yourself, but there's also no desire to change at the same time. It's like that spiraling loop that goes downwards. Like the further you go, the harder it is to get out of it.
But it had such a stigma, I reckon, even in my mind a couple of years ago, that if you were feeling this way, and even we talk about it to each other and we talk about it through the podcast now, a couple of years ago, we wouldn't even talk about this. We wouldn't talk about it with friends or whatever. I think it can be, from an old school male world where, you don't talk about it, there's no issues, everything's fine, you're going to be strong about it, which can lead to even worse feelings. I think the reason for a lot of this talk, and hopefully more people talk about it, is that it's okay to talk about it and kind of be like, to talk to either friends or family or whoever, to be like, actually, I've got terrible self-esteem this week, or I had a terrible week because, I feel this way and that way. Because I think I was going to get here to this point as well, like, right, preventative, how, from a mental health perspective, what things can you do? And people often don't think about things like that where, just even the type of food you eat or nutritionally, how it sort of reacts or, how it changes oneself. Yeah. But when you look into it, it becomes so obvious in terms of, how you feed yourself changes, hormonally, how you interact, how you act. If you become overweight and then you become anxious because of it, or if you're feeling terrible and you're not sleeping because you're high on sugar and always crashing, it's going to impact your mental health as a result of that.
Exactly.
So you can't just think mental health as like, well, it's just how I think and how I may react. It's, as I say, to do with food, to do with sleeping, to do how socially interaction, you're being, how, if you're keeping your network and interactions going.
Like you just mentioned, these things spiral as well. So you start eating badly, you get overweight. That makes you not want to go out and talk with people because you're more conscious of your body. So your social engagement is down. Your sleep gets worse because you're, eating shitloads of junk food and you're going through these massive insulin spikes and whatnot. So these all play a part. For me personally, when I was in my most depressive state, I can look back and I know when it was, because it was just before I decided to change my life around. And it was in a time when, let's see, it would have been 2012, 2013, that sort of December, January period. I was working in the mines and I was working underground. So I'd sort of left home for 3 months, driven up to the mines there. And I was living in a house with one other guy. We were on opposite rosters, so I would barely ever see him. When I worked in the mine, sometimes I'd do the day shifts, which means I would go down before it was light and come up after it was dark. So I didn't see the sun. Didn't see the sun for maybe 4 or 5 days at a time. And man, I just look at this and every single thing I was doing wrong. The exercise, I was exercising really poorly because my roster was just shit, and I didn't have a gym or anything, wasn't playing soccer. Social engagement, knew no one, wasn't going out and doing stuff. My diet was terrible. I was just eating rubbish, Tim Tams and whatever. Mental stimulation, I was just watching TV and stuff. Sleep, obviously I was changing with the roster, going from day shift to night shift. And stress management, I think, I just wasn't handling stuff. So like all of those things led to the worst point of my, depressive point. So I can definitely see how all of these, while relating to Alzheimer's and dementia prevention, I guess, is huge for depression and like apathy as well. If you just feel like, what's the point of living in life? Like nothing's worth it.
To helping you getting back on track with some of those things.
Yeah.